This conference will now be recorded.
All right, Kendall, are we good? All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Regional Flood Planning Group for Region 12. Kendall, will you do the roll call, please, for item 1?
Yes, sir. Brian Yonta. Dave Wegman. Thank you, Dave. Derek Bays.
Here.
Thank you. Debbie Reed. Present. Thank you. Nefi Garza.
Present.
Thank you, Nefi. Kara Tackett.
Present.
Thank you. Jeff Carroll.
Hello.
Thank you, Jeff. Sabrina Santiago.
Here.
Thank you. John Beasley. Suzanne Scott.
Here.
Thank you. Will you go fix it? Jose Reyes.
Present.
Thank you, Jose. Haley Hernandez for Dave Mock.
Here.
Thanks, Haley. And Donovan Burton is unable to make it today. Carly Rotzler, Texas Park and Wildlife. Fernando Perez with TDEM.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Fernando. Thank you. Jamie McCool, Texas Department of Agriculture. Jamie, I see you online. I'm counting it. Jared Bowen, Texas State Soil and Water Conservation District.
Here.
Thank you, Jared. Chris Robles with General Land Office.
Here.
Thank you. And Miss Tressa Olson with TWDB.
Here.
Thank you, Tressa. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Awesome. Thank you, Kendall. Next item is item number 2, public comments. Kendall, do we have anyone signed up to speak?
No, sir. No one has signed up to speak.
All right, thank you. Item number 3, approval of the minutes from the previous flood planning group meeting from February 13th. These were in your packet, or they are in your packet. If there are any comments or questions, otherwise, if I could get a motion and a second to approve.
Dave Wigman move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Minutes are approved. Item number 4, communications from the Water Development Board. Do we have Tressa online? All right.
Yes.
Go ahead,
Thank you.
Tressa. All yours.
Thank you. Since we last met on February 13th, the TWDB has sent out a February newsletter, which was sent out on February 21st. Topics included TWDB flood planning staff updates, information on obtaining BLE information, and minor updates to the Exhibit C document. On February 28th, we sent out communication via email regarding updates on 2 key resources, the Buildings Dataset and the Infrastructure Assessment Toolkit. Both of these resources are now available on our website. And finally, on March 14th, we notified y'all that the existing conditions cursory floodplain dataset is now available for download on the Data Hub. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Any questions or items for Tressa from the group? Okay. Item number 5, chair report. The only item I have is, as was previously discussed, as the River Authority is the sponsor, we sent the Water Development Board a letter of support for the 2024 fifth prioritization list. That went out very recently. But that's it from the chair. Item number 6, discussion and appropriate action to authorize the sponsor to negotiate and execute an amendment with to the contract with Water Development Board and to execute an amendment to the subcontract with HDR to extend the interim submittal deadlines. And Kendall can chime in on this more, but essentially the Water Development Board's deadline shifted for some of the deliverables, so we have to amend our contract with them, and we also have to amend our contract with HDR to reflect everything. Kendall, did I hit all the high points?
Yes, sir. And just because we're amending the contract, we do need planning group approval. So we'll request authorization to do so.
Any comments or questions? So we do need to take an action. So I'm putting forward a motion authorizing the sponsor to negotiate and execute the amendment to the contract with Water Development Board and to execute an amendment to the subcontract with HDR to extend the interim submittal deadlines for the 2028 plan in accordance with Water Development Board's changes. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Item number 7, discussion and appropriate action to adopt an amendment to the 2023 San Antonio Regional Flood Plan. I believe we're turning it over to HDR and team, HDR and half.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Kendall sent out, you have a packet in front of you that has the actual the amendment for the flood plan, plus all of the FME and FMP fact sheets that are going to go into this. These are the fact sheets that we've gone over previously, made all comments, they're all finalized. We have all the models, all the data that we needed, BCAs included. So all of the FMEs and FMPs are ready. We have the amendment. We had a call last week with the Water Development Board to confirm that we were doing the amendment correctly with the way they wanted to see that in the full report. So we're just providing the amendment, not changing anything in the full report. But you would see this, and we highlighted everything that that will change. All of those changes are mainly due to adding the FME or FMP, or changing the count numbers, or changing the value of the information that we had. Other than that, it's straightforward. It was just to add these plans, or the projects, and that we had previously discussed. So there's a couple things that we're going through internal review and doing things like that to finalize. So our motion would be to look for an updated plan with we'll be updating the example cover letter, obviously, with everything from today's meeting, and then would be just minor text edits. Nothing will change. No additional FMEs or FMPs as it stands right now. The amendment is complete and in front of you, ready for adoption, and is due on April 1st. So with that, I'll entertain any questions. Yeah.
All right. Any comments or questions or discussion from the Regional Flood Planning Group about the proposed amendment? Yeah, anything from technical?
Not too much. I mean, obviously, what you're seeing is the end product of some of the discussions. It was some pretty robust discussions. We had a lot of the stuff that was initially put in that we ended up paring that down a little bit. I think everybody at the group was confident and happy at the end of the day that what we submitted is well and reasonable. We had the all of the one pages on those all formatted to look alike. So I think it's been well vetted.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, looking for a motion to adopt an amendment to the 2023 San Antonio Regional Flood Plan and authorize the technical consultants to submit the amendment to the Water Development Board as discussed today.
I'll make the motion.
Motion?
This is Suzanne.
Dave Wegman, second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Item number 8, update on our technical consultants' work and schedule. All right, you're still up, Ron.
Yeah, we've been talking so much about this amendment. We really haven't discussed where we're going from here. And there's still a long road ahead of getting into this next flood plan. But want to thank the planning group and the technical committee for their guidance on the amendment. got that behind us. So looking forward to our next step. So as you heard Tressa and Kendall mention, we did some of the items did move around because I think some of the data, floodplain data, building information data, some of that those deliverables got pushed, and so we received those a little later than anticipated. We're still waiting on the future data, but all of the everything indicates that the pushback looks to be okay. And so the biggest push was that technical memo that is due January 7th, 2026. That's the one where it's chapters 1 through 4, and it's kind of that first group. We had the same technical memo last time. Everything doesn't have to be complete in that memo. It's just a status update to make sure that we're on track. We're just trying to show the board that we're on track and moving forward with that. Then kind of you can see on a couple of other highlighted things. Then there's a list of FMEs to be provided to the board. The board's gonna we have to come up with a list of FMPs that the board will complete by the end of the plan, so that we can have those incorporated as FMPs. Yes, that they will perform. Yes. So we're gonna have to come up with we'll come up with a recommendation for y'all to some that we think would serve well for the Water Development Board to do, and then we can vote on that list. We still haven't gotten a idea of how many that will be, so still waiting on a little bit more guidance as we get closer to that. But that'll be at the early part of next year that we start talking about that, or start.
So just to clarify, those are FMEs per region or FMEs that we think would have application through the whole state?
FMEs per region.
So each region will be giving FMEs to the Texas Water Development Board for them to conduct.
Each region will have FMEs considered.
Well, yeah, right.
I can't promise.
And then
but
they
yes.
will decide that
Yes.
Water Development Board based on how much capacity they have to do.
Yeah, I don't know
those.
how they're. I don't know if we're gonna send a here's our priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or if they're gonna prioritize them somehow. We just know that it'll probably go. I would assume it'd probably go on their scoring system, something, the way they are right now, and then we're gonna submit. I mean, they could be, from what I know, they could be new ones. They could be on the list. It's just their way of being able to provide more projects for the end goal, to have more projects, right? So I think it's for this to be included in this cycle. So it's a quick turnaround that they're going to have to do. So I don't know how many that it's feasible for 15 regions.
So would there be an opportunity for us to maybe have a workshop or something to give you some ideas?
Oh, absolutely.
Versus,
I like that. I do. I'm I think that's a great idea. I mean,
there may be some brainstorming that we would want to do with, as collectively, or we can do it through the technical committee. I don't know, whatever the chair would recommend, but it seems like there could be some opportunity
and I think
brainstorm with you.
We'd probably come with a recommended list and have a brainstorming session. That's kind of where we're not going to tell you, hey, these are the ones we have to do. We definitely have something where we'll look through them and find something that we think is recommended. We'll have the whole list, and we can have the brainstorming session, go through technical committee, or have a separate and talk about those. But
Yeah.
As part of preparing for the technical memo, we will be discussing needs across the region. And so we'll be able to, from technical memo to the deadline to provide this information to TWDB and have that list. We'll have plenty of time to go through and discuss the evaluations.
Yeah, I think the idea of a workshop is great. I think starting with the technical committee workshop, but then having the full group have a chance to weigh in more detail that's where my thought would go on how to handle that. I'm just curious, has there been any, there's going to be a handoff to Water Development Board or proposal for what we would like, but have there been any discussions with them about, is it is it purely a dollar size thing? I know dollars will play a role in that, but is it certain types of projects that they think they would take versus leaving other types, to the regional flood planning group? Has there been any discussion about what that is?
So as of right now, that task cannot begin until we get notice to proceed after the acceptance of the tech memo. So we have quite a bit of time, right? So it's
Yeah.
not something we got to start thinking about
No,
tomorrow.
but just curious.
So I'm sure more is going to come out on that
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to get more information as we get. I think that's kind of looking into as you kind of see, that's into March of we're a year away from when that's due. So
Yeah, are they going to take more of the intangible things and we take the tangible? Or yeah, I mean, like, do they get all the easy ones and we keep the really tough ones?
Don't you think
Just
that
asking.
I was just wondering, it would seem, and again, I guess we don't know the prioritization in your
Yeah.
question, but evaluations are kind of supposed to lead to projects, so there needs to be a direct line to a project. Would that make sense?
That does to me. That was kind of, so this isn't a what are policies or processes or engagement. This is getting to a project. And so at some point they'll give us criteria, but we already kind of know how they're prioritizing projects. So keeping that in mind, I assume, is where we're headed.
yeah, I think if we have an idea that it remove if we know an FME will remove a lot of homes, structures, critical infrastructure, and we just need that study to get it across the point, because you got to remember there were several projects that didn't have all the information that we just needed a little bit more, and I would think that we could definitely prioritize several of those because we need one or two things and it's ready to go, and we think that they're going to score really well. So yeah, to your point, yes, I think that's definitely. So then, and just kind of keeping with that overall overall schedule. The draft plan is due May 2027, and then the final is due January 10th. And then flipping to the next slide, if you look, this is a snippet out of our overall plan of the schedule that was provided by the Water Development Board. We have it, and if anybody needs this, we can provide this. But we're through. This is kind of where the meat of it, where we're at now. We're past that flood plan amendment, and then we're kind of getting into that task 1, 2, and 3 are our real priorities right now. And task 1 is the planning area description. If you remember, kind of what goes with that is we're collecting a lot of infrastructure data, critical infrastructure, different all of the things that go into that. One of the things that I want to talk about that will kind of go into this, the planning area descriptions, is if you remember last year, we reached out to all the communities about their floodplain management practices and what level of floodplain management practices they have in their community. One of the things in the guidelines this year, I know we've taken an approach that we weren't going to create policy as part of this planning group region, but one of the things to consider this year is whether or not we want to if we want to set a minimum criteria in order for communities to be able to participate in the flood planning. So now that we know what it is and we've gone through it, what are the minimum? Are there minimum standards we want to set? I.e., we want to you have to be part of the NFIP, right? You have to have higher standards. Something for those communities that are, there's a lot of communities in this region, and as we stated last time, we have a lot of higher standards in this region, and most communities are doing that, and we'll take a look at that. So we're going to bring that forward to y'all for more discussion. We're going to let you know which communities are meeting NFIP requirements. Which just want y'all to start. I wanted to plant that seed because I know that it's going to be I think it'll be a little bit different approach than we took last time, and wanting to do that. And so it's not up for we're not voting on anything today. I just wanted to plant that seed. That's something that's going to come up in the near future that we're going to have that discussion about.
Yeah, I think there's some value in setting some minimum standards. One of the struggles is, okay, if a community isn't already participating, don't we want them to have opportunity to access some funds to get there? So it's how do we look at what that minimum standard is? I mean, encouraging them to move there with some support is probably pretty valuable, versus saying you have to be there to get anything, but maybe for projects you have to be there. But yeah, I think it's worth looking at.
Yeah, because looking at if a community has no development code set in place, we could do this huge project, or we could do a project or study to get them to that point, and then if the development codes aren't in place to protect that investment, then so we want to make sure that if we're going to put their project high on the list, that they're doing everything they can to protect their investment, the investment of this group, the investment of the Water Development Board. So
yeah, and you know me, I'm cautious with words like development code. To me, it's not development code. It's a code of what you can and can't build in the floodplain.
yes.
I mean, it doesn't really need to go beyond that, but yes, you shouldn't be building new structures in the floodplain.
Absolutely.
That's a big conversation, an appropriate one, but that to me is different than saying development codes.
Will it take
know,
funding like from a strategy to assist those communities in
Developing and following the code.
Yeah. And as you know, the devil's in the interpretation of those codes.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, right? Is if we have these communities that don't have that code, maybe we could get an FMS to say, we need this amount of money to help these communities develop whatever
Floodplain
code,
standards.
whatever, adopt the minimum floodplain ordinances and things of that nature. Yes. So that's to me, that's one of the big things coming up, one of the big decisions that we kind of have to make that's kind of different than what we did last time, because we kind of took a hands-off approach and saying, hey, we're not going to force y'all to have anything. This is more, in order to be a part of getting funding, being part of this group, getting into the fifth plan, you have to do some things. And so again, something I just wanted to plant the seed today. Make sure that everybody can think about that between now and the next couple meetings. And if you have ideas, please bring them in.
Yeah, because we made that decision. A lot of it was just based on time and expediency and just trying to meet the deadlines to get a plan and just gather all the data we could and get it in. But now I think it's a good point. We have more time to do a better job or a more thorough job of looking and evaluating. So yes.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea also. I think it's the important part of this is who in these communities is going to champion this cause. There's got to be somebody to carry the water for this thing. Simply us spending money to have standards, have a plan drafted for them means nothing if there's not somebody to run with that. So you're gonna have to have a fair amount of community involvement with that, or with those governmental entities.
Agreed. Yeah, it's going to be a big. I'm sure this will be a very in-depth discussion, and so that's why I kind of want to put it on the radar. So that's kind of your task 1A is the planning area description, gathering a lot of data, getting information from the stakeholders, getting that all into, it's a huge, that's part of what goes into the GIS, the geodatabase. So a lot of information from there. Existing conditions, flood risk, that will be merging the flood risk data that we get from the Water Development Board. This year, the 10 years added to that. So we plan to come meet with Aaron, Yasmin, and their team soon to say, here's what, after we overlay all these products, this is what we have as the top priority. So we're working on that existing condition now. We'll move into that future condition. As part of that existing condition, you then start looking at the vulnerability stuff. So you're overlaying it on top of all of your infrastructure. And so as part of that, we are required to have a public meeting. And so that's why you do see a public meeting there. That's one of the things we're discussing now is what that public meeting is going to look like. Is it going to be one public meeting that we just invite people here? Is it going to be a virtual that we put out to everyone? Do we want to have 4 or 5 meetings throughout the region? So we're going to come up with some ideas with the River Authority, along with our public outreach folks, and come up with a plan for that. So that's something that's going to come up this summer, and go from there. one of the other things as part of reaching out to these communities is we're starting to reach out and we're starting the idea of reaching out and getting up. So we've come up with a questionnaire, and this questionnaire, it will be mostly it's a data gathering questionnaire. It will ask for their critical infrastructure, ask for known flooding issues, ask for historical data. Everybody's going to get it. So many of you in this room will get it, and we're going to be reaching out to all the communities, all the stakeholders. There's a lot of folks on that list: municipalities, counties, all the flood authorities, groundwater conservation districts, and others. Well, we don't get a lot of participation from some of the groundwater districts and others, but we will be reaching out. We're working with Kendall to finalize our list, making sure we have the latest and greatest contacts for all of those. That's an ever-changing list of people that we're chasing. So it's, there is we have an online survey. Kendall will be sending that out for you. If y'all have anything, for any comment or anything that you'd like to see added, please let Abigail, Ludovine, or myself know. It's a pretty comprehensive list of questions that it's very similar to what we did last time. All the things that we really need, asking about their floodplain ordinances, and depending on whether you say yes or no, how much we drill down. Asking for critical infrastructure, and asking for again, historical data and things of that nature.
Ron, just out of curiosity, do you have what critical infrastructure is defined as in that questionnaire?
We do.
Okay.
We do. That was one of the important things and I think it's going to be a lot tougher for you, and it's a conversation that we need to sit down and have, because we talked about meeting with the EOC and different things, because you're not going to have all of that information like some of the smaller communities are. Your list is going to be a lot more exhaustive, and because it is nursing homes, schools, hospitals, emergency facilities. So it's an exhaustive list. Cities, San Antonio and Bexar County is probably going to obviously be the most difficult to make sure that we have everything. But I think we have a pretty good list from last time. But I know that we've missed out on some, and we know how important that is for scoring. And so we really want to make sure we capture those. So we're going to do a lot better job this time. That's one of the improvements we want to make this time, is to really capture those critical infrastructure, right? I mean, we're even, I think Donovan's going to have a lot of stuff that'll go on that list. We talked to the River Authority about their, their utility information, right? CPS, really get into their infrastructure, making sure that we have all of that critical infrastructure identified so that we can score better, because we know how important that is.
This may be a dumb question, but it seems like if you're in one of those categories whatever is defined as critical infrastructure, it seems like there would be in the city permitting process some code that goes with those types of businesses, like if it's a daycare or a elderly care facility or whatever, hospital. Is that not something that they, in the building permits for the city, that there would be something that would identify those categories? I mean, almost like, I'm thinking of, there's certain purchasing categories that, based on purchasing codes, where people fall within different business sectors. Is there not something like that that's already in a database of the city or the county for businesses that we could say, could you pull the codes that are associated with daycares, nursing homes, blah, 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 and see if that comes through a public database, a business? Is that not, I mean, maybe that's too simple. I don't know. Would there be like a code associated with typical
I mean, we have
No,
types
because
of
each city
businesses?
does their own zoning in
There's
Texas.
zoning, yeah.
So like Houston has no zoning, therefore there is no code. Now you have state licenses and permits for operating those businesses like a daycare has. But each city, because they regulate their own zoning, may or may not have zoning, may or may not allow, there may be a category that a school, for example, in San Antonio can go in any zoning category. A hospital
Right.
can go in any zoning category. So you can't immediately by that look to see what that use is. So there's not a shortcut to it.
In theory,
Google's probably your best bet.
yeah. I mean, in theory, if it was zoned appropriately. And I mean, keep in mind, we have uses that are non-conforming, so, and they're all over the place. So in a perfect world with the new Build SA system, in theory, we could possibly do that, but I mean, we have these non-conforming uses all over the place, and daycares and churches.
And most of those uses are allowed in multiple zoning
Yes.
categories. So you're
Yeah.
going to get I mean, 50,000 parcels that you then can begin looking. I mean, it's going to be a large number because of what they're allowed in.
Yeah, and we have to be specific on what it is too. It's because we can't just say critical infrastructure. We're labeling it school, hospital, and everything. So yeah, but yes, it really would. and I think and you know like I mentioned, I think for some of these communities it's going to be a lot easier because they're going to say we have one school, we have police and fire in the same building, and that's about all we have. And then there's yeah, I was like, and then there's San Antonio, right? So yeah, so and I know we have the individuals that we're going to be reaching out to, and I know you know um, some of them are going to be able to answer all of those questions. For Sabrina and Jeff Carroll and a couple of the other folks, and even Dave, to ask, hey, where are all your critical facilities in your jurisdiction? That's going to be an exhaustive list. So we'll work with them on how we're going to get all that information.
I mean, the good news is in Bexar County, all of those organizations have their own GIS department. They all have their own data. It's available. It's, so it's 40 phone calls, not, hunting a map, but they're there.
So, and as you mentioned, we also talked about meeting with the EOC, and one of the other things in the task one information is getting the number of high water rescues, fatalities and other things. So we're going to look to their geodatabase. So yes, a lot of reaching out, a lot of
public entities would be, like Kara's saying, would be easier because they all have their own databases. It's really more the private businesses that fall into those categories what may be the more challenging. Is that correct? Like if you have
for
your critical infrastructure that may not be a public infrastructure, but is still a critical infrastructure.
Is there critical infrastructure that's not public?
Well, I mean, like private
daycares
school,
is the only one.
Private schools.
Okay.
Yeah, some of those may be a little bit more tough. And the idea that we're going to capture every one of them in San Antonio is probably not, is going to be really tough. We're going to do our best to, and that's why we're putting this out early. That way, I know we're going to keep trying to keep digging in deeper. So, but anyway, the survey is available if you'd like to see it. Kendall will send it out, a link to it. It's not out to the public yet, so you're asked to sign in. So you can sign in as John Doe or whoever, and you can try to fill it out and kind of see. We can always erase it later, but it's just there for right now.
Is there any public comment in that time period or public outreach that's done in that time period, or is this all the targeted organizations and entities in this?
We're gonna send out the survey. We're gonna give it a month, a few weeks, and I know we're gonna have to start we're gonna have to start making some calls, and then we're gonna have to be more aggressive, and so we'll start working in that April to May timeframe. That's going to fold over into that June, July timeframe. If we decide to go out and have public meetings, and we have meetings throughout the county, we can go meet with them, in different places. So a lot of public outreach and things are going to start in that April, May, June, July, trying to get all of that data.
So that asks the question. We didn't reset up a public outreach committee. We just kind of did technical. Do we even envision the need for it? I mean, if it's going forward, or that's a kick the can down the road? Sorry,
I mean, really and truly, this our focus this time is really going to be with the stakeholders, right? Because that's really where we got all of the, not saying we won't take it out to the public, just saying we're going to spend a lot of time reaching those stakeholders and getting that information. I think that there's more time as the plan progresses. We are required for that one public meeting to say, hey, Do you have any known flood concerns that are not in this flood hazard area we have identified? 90% of those are going to be, hey, my backyard floods, and that's going to be like, great, we have it documented. I'll forward it to Sabrina, but it won't be in a regional type of project.
Yeah, over
right?
the 5-year cycle, we'll have opportunities for outreach to the public, but especially with this stage early on, task one, figuring out what critical infrastructure is out there. Stakeholders are going to be the people who can provide those best answers for us. But we'll have, just like last cycle, opportunities for residents to come and talk about flooding concerns that they've seen in their neighborhood or their backyard. And so we'll have open public meetings and opportunities for that, but especially with, like we talked about, just the definition of critical infrastructure, this stakeholder specific survey is really important for this stage.
So, if you want to pull it up real quick and just kind of show real quick as we go
I didn't see
through.
utilities on there, but I'm assuming you're putting saws and CPS on there. Okay, just checking.
So here's kind of what the survey is going to look like, and it goes through. It's an online survey. It tells you a little bit about the flood plan, and we right now we have it says it's going to close April 30th. That's just something arbitrary we have for a date we had for right now, so don't be too alarmed with that. Some of the things we're just trying to get this set up internally to kind of look at it to make sure things are looking right, and you can kind of go through. We'll make this one. The River Rumbler and thanks for that. That'll. And this is funner. This is more fun for me when Kendall. This is fun. Yeah, I know. This is more fun for me when Kendall drives it. When, yeah, when Kendall is giving abuse to him and it's not me. Yeah. So this is kind of asking which of the following types of flood infrastructure are present in your jurisdiction, and you can kind of see this is starting to talk about as you click these, more things will become available. Because, like example, click levies, and then as we go through, they'll ask more questions on that. Is it already part of the state flood plan? Most of these are probably a good chance that yes. Then please identify infrastructure not included in the flood plan. So this is going to be easy for those communities that aren't named San Antonio, Bexar County, Bernie, others. For y'all, I don't expect you to come up with a list. I don't expect. So we're going to sit and have those conversations. This is, and we're also working on.
The question's going to be, they're going to have to look in the flood plan to find out what they submitted this stuff a long time ago, right? Theoretically.
There's going to
is there going to be like a link that
inserted into this will be a GIS map where it'll be all of the infrastructure we have already identified.
Okay, so if I put in Bexar County, let's say I put in Karnes County at the top, will only Karnes County information show, or I'm going to have to drill down to Karnes County in some big database?
Yes. It won't be a database, it'll be a map.
A map. Okay, so on the map, I would have to drill down into Karnes. It's not just going to bring up Karnes County for me and to know what I put in. Okay, I'd have to.
And so
or
there's not an easy way to do that. And so
Yeah.
one of the things is we fully expect to have to reach out to any of the communities that have a large data set. This is just part of the outreach. It's going to be tough without having that conversation one-on-one and knowing what they're asking for. And, we're going to be working with them individually.
So is there, I mean, if someone were to want to go into the flood plan, is there a list that they would be able to say, oh, I can go to the flood plan and look?
I don't know if they could open that book up, but I think it should be available in the state flood plan viewer that the Water Development Board developed, the flood plan viewer. You should be able to drill down into all of the stuff in the geodatabase.
Because I'm just wondering if you would want to put a link in there to say, go here, and then goes to that viewer, and then you put in Karnes County and it pulls up what they put in before, so they know.
It's right there. It's
But
so
that's
it is.
but is that the viewer or do you have
That's
to?
the viewer.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. Because that at least would help them determine where to look. That's great.
So, Kendall, you can probably just keep going down to the next. The critical. This is it. Here's where it defines critical infrastructure. So you can see the list. It's pretty extensive. So we can go to the next one. Then's asking for. This is kind of getting ahead of task, necessarily task 1, 2, and 3, but this is something we're going to have to ask for anyway. Are there FMEs and FMPs that aren't already on the list that you have planned? Because we know those are coming, and everybody's wanting to give those to us and talk about them. So if they have them here, this is going to be the first time we ask for them. It will not be the last. So yes, and it as Ludovine said, it's going to be talking about any of the projects that are proposed, ongoing, of that nature. Yeah, and here it provides a list of FMEs, FMPs. One of the things is I think we're in a unique part of the plan to where there hasn't been any fifth projects that have been taken part, right? So in future plans, there's going to be the list of projects that are been completed or underway we're going to be taking off that FME, FMP, FMS list. So it'll be an ongoing project list. Right now, those lists are going to be blank because well, everything's ongoing, I guess, because they're up for proposed.
So is the assumption that once fifth funding has been made available for any one of those projects on that list, is the option to add additional projects to that list? Is that why that question is asked?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you can. There's ability to add as many as you want. It doesn't have to. You don't have to take one off to put one on.
Okay.
So you can keep adding more and more and more.
So the list of projects are ones that have already been submitted and or new projects?
We're really looking for projects that are for new
ones.
new projects.
Okay,
yes.
that'd be great to put in there. Okay, got it.
Anything else, Ron? You want to highlight?
Yeah, so this is a great example of what the questionnaire is. Roll through the questionnaire. If you want to talk to one of us, please reach out. I don't think that or if you see anything that's just a glaring need, most of this is going to be, we've looked through it. We've had our other regions that we've looked at what they were asking. We had Abigail and the HAF team look at it, and we compared to what they sent out. So I think we've got a pretty comprehensive list of questions and what everyone's doing. So we ask that you take a look at it, and if you have any questions or comments, just let us know.
All right. Good, Ron?
Yeah. One of the things was I had mentioned to Suzanne the map that I'm talking about that's going to be inserted in to be able to see some of the existing infrastructure and be able to do all of the good things of capturing other infrastructure. That's still in the process of being made through the GIS group, and so that's the map is the one. The couple of maps that would be inserted are the only thing we're waiting on, and I think that kind of is a gist of where we're going. You can see we got a lot of work ahead of us. Most of it right now is data gathering and figuring out, because once we have our existing infrastructure that we're going to work, or our existing floodplains that we're going to work with the River Authority, making sure we have the latest and greatest. We're going to overlay that into all this infrastructure we're collecting, and then that's going to help us with our vulnerability. That's going to help us identify future projects that'll roll us into the proposed conditions, the future conditions. And so not proposed, future conditions, and then so we'll be able to build these layers and hopefully increase the the amount of information that we have over last time, so that we can make sure that we're scoring well. So with that, that's all I had on where we're going. And we'll, the next couple meetings, we'll dig into maybe some of these tasks a little deeper, and talk about what we're doing and what we're going to need guidance and input on.
Yeah, Debbie.
I just wanted to make sure that you might have covered it a little bit, but can you explain a little bit the role, the impact of the existing condition cursory floodplain data that was sent out and how that meshes with the information that we turned in?
So the existing conditions cursory data is a data set that was developed by the Water Development Board. It really, it's going to benefit, it's going to have a lot more benefit for those areas that don't have floodplain. For the San Antonio River Basin, I doubt that it's going to give us much coverage over what we already have. Outside of the one thing that we would use it for is probably the 10-year, because the 10-year isn't mapped, and undertaking mapping the 10-year would be a huge endeavor. So I think we're going to assume that the 10-year, now I haven't looked at that. I've heard from other regions that the 10-year is larger than the 100-year in some instances in some places, and so we haven't even downloaded the data. So don't give me. I'm just saying we have the data. We haven't looked at it as far as comparing it to what we have. We're still compiling what we're gonna take the data set that we have, lay it right on top of that cursory, and see if there's anything poking out. And that's when we're gonna know what's different, and we'll be able to kind of talk about how anything that changes we want to make, or if there's anything, if there's any mapping that might be farther up a floodplain or anything. But I don't think we should run into that here. But that's right.
All right, I think on that note, we're going to move on from item number 8 and move to item number 9, public comments. Kendall, do we have anybody signed up to speak?
No, there are no more comments.
It's probably a good thing. Date and potential agenda items for the next meeting. We don't have an immediate deadline that would require us to meet, so we're looking at April or May. Kendall, I did have one question. We have the vacancy for the electric utility. Have we seen any input? And that would be an item coming up potentially soon, right?
That would, yes. The solicitation has not been posted this time, and I will let you guys know when it has. The date for when the solicitation goes out, because of the timeline for how long we have to review it and vote on it, is really dependent on when this next meeting is. As we don't have an immediate deadline, we've discussed having a meeting, like you said, in April or in May. May could allow more time for us to actually send out the stakeholder survey, do more work on tasks 1 through 3, and have more substantive information to bring back, as well as hopefully a new seat or new member for that electric generating utilities vacancy.
So what I kind of hear is that May is a better month, or better time.
And get through Fiesta. To be honest, it's going to be a lot going on. So May, I think we will look at.
Absolutely, we can look at May. This group has historically liked afternoons, Tuesdays, Thursdays. We are here on a Monday, so more flexible. But is there a time in May that works well?
May 13th, which is a Tuesday.
I'll be out of the country. Go figure.
I feel like that happened. Never mind. But
Hey, as long as you don't just call in from the beach and say hi and hang up, okay?
No, it was more than hi. It was like, ha, 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 look where I am.
Yeah.
you're welcome. 20th. That's next Tuesday. I would say we're also trying to balance May with like I know schools will be ending, and there's other stuff that starts to happen as you get towards the end of May and the holiday too. 20th, generally looking pretty good.
Did you say no, Debbie?
Hmm?
What about the
Correct.
Keep going.
Or the 22nd. She was looking at the 22nd.
Thursday, 22nd of May?
So that's the Thursday, but that weekend is Memorial Day weekend.
Oh,
And so if we're doing it that week of the 19th through 23rd, it's like earlier in the week versus later in the week. Makes sense to me.
19th, 20th. 19th is better, Debbie? Monday the 19th? Yeah, we're all going to have conflicts. Yeah, I am sensitive to that is the right before the Memorial Day weekend. Because Memorial Day is the 26th. It's a Sarah board meeting. 19th or 20th. We'll look at how about we look at either the 19th or the 20th, and we're going to lose somebody. I don't think we can get consensus, but we will look at one of those dates in the afternoon. And if you have any feelings about time, just please let Kendall know. Okay.
Get us a date as soon as possible, just so we lock it down.
Lock it down. You just want to pick one? 20th. Okay.
Sure.
With a virtual option.
20th with a virtual option at 2?
Sure.
2.
Great,
Done.
good team.
All right. Anything else that people want to add to the agenda or just make sure we talk about down the road? All right. Yes. Yeah, I agree. And I think I know we had a public and outreach committee last time or subcommittee, whatever it was. I honestly, I don't think we need to do that, but I think I'd rather handle outreach in a bigger group discussion because I think there's a lot of good dialogue that goes on, especially since we're focusing on key stakeholders. So whenever for the 20th, if we can put that on there, and we can fill in how that discussion looks, but let's talk about outreach and the plan in May.
I'm assuming we would not have, because your public meeting dates that are highlighted here are May, June, right? I was in June, July, I can't tell on this. June. Okay, June, July, okay. Okay, good, it's not May. So we would determine that date at our next meeting. Is that, okay, perfect. I couldn't see the yellow on there, okay.
Anything else? Yeah, Debbie, good? Are you just anxiously ready to make a motion to adjourn? So I should talk really slowly. Just kidding. All right, thank y'all for everything today. Thursday, March 20th. If you're going to the Real Estate Council fight night, hope you're ready for a good time. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn?
Debbie Reed, motion to adjourn.
Motion. Can I get a second?
Dave Wegman, second.
Dave, second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right. Thank y'all. Be safe.